I was taught many years ago that the number one vehicle to get to the truth is cross-examination. I now believe the number one vehicle to get to the truth is a good deposition because they are used in every single trial. They, in essence, become your cross-examination. So we get to do a dress rehearsal at deposition. We take out the best parts of it, we play it at trial, it becomes the preamble to our cross-examination. So if you improve your skill set on depositions, you improve your skill set on cross-examination. And that's why the two of them are bound together.
Yeah, and we're going to go through specific things that we like to ask of every defendant first. And these are different skills or different things that we've seen works over and over again. And I think in preparation for this, I read over 3,500 pages of Bruce Schechter depots. So let's start. This is how it'll look at trial. And when you're getting the defendant video clips, there's a bunch of unique skills that we have. We're going to go through each of these individually. But these are the different skills we're going to go through in the next hour.
Go back to that for a second. Those are the takeaways from the presentation. When I say takeaways, those are the specific areas we plan ahead of time on getting from every single witness. I am convinced, and it may be because of my memory, it may be because of my age, but every witness is going to give us something at deposition. Many of them are going to give us more than we had hoped, and many are going to become our witnesses at the time of trial. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of preparation, but these areas are the takeaways.
And I heard Rex speaking yesterday, and he said that he starts every trial with a plan, that you need to know where you're going. And I think the same is true of every depot that you take. You should know generally what you want and where you're going in each of these depositions. So let's start. Early admissions is the first, and Bruce, do you want to go over this one? Okay, so early admissions is something that I saw Bruce and Rex do immediately. And what's, I think, different about their depositions is instead of going through admonitions before you introduce yourself, they get a really good question up front, and they do something that makes the defendant uncomfortable. And so if they have a good fact in our favor, that he was speeding, that he wasn't looking where he was going, you want to hit that right up front. And I don't think we
Which occurred on August 3rd, 2019.
Yes.
Were you involved in that collision?
Yes.
Were you intoxicated at the time of this collision?
Yes.
Stop it there for a second. And the reason video depots are so enjoyable to do, you saw the delay. I knew where his mind was going before he answered it. So he now gave me an invitation to keep going over it in different ways, because now he was going to concede he was intoxicated. And the importance, before we started this depot, we did all our written discovery, which we spend hours, our special interrogatories, our requests for admissions. They denied he was intoxicated. They denied he was at fault. They denied that he did anything wrong. We were the responsible party. This was the third question in the deposition.
Yeah, and to tee up this case, because we're going to be talking about this defendant in particular, there were bad facts for us. So this was a defendant that was intoxicated, and he made a left at an intersection that was green. So he failed to yield. But our client was also impaired. She had THC in her system, and she was going about 15 miles over the speed limit. So we weren't certain about liability going into this. We were worried about comparative.
You understand we are here to discuss a collision which occurred on August 3rd, 2019.
Yes.
Were you involved in that collision?
Yes.
Were you intoxicated at the time of this collision?
I can't pause it.
Yes.
And when you say you were intoxicated at the time of this collision, what do you mean?
I was mildly impaired.
Do you know what the level 0.17 reflects?
Intoxication?
That's twice the legal limit, is it not?
Yes.
And are you aware that you registered a 0.17 level of intoxication?
Yes.
Would you agree that would mean you were twice the legal limit of what one can be when driving a motor vehicle at the time of the collision?
Yes.
So,
That's before I do the admonition. No, it wasn't. But it was very up close and personal in the beginning of the deposition.
yeah, and if I'm being honest, I think most people would be done with the depot there, right? You would say, I've gotten what I needed for trial, and I can let him go. During this presentation, we want to convince you of all the different ways that you can keep turning the knife and keep getting that kind of material that you need at trial. So the next one is creating absurdities. Do you want to tee this one up? Or I can.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's just play this one.
Why did you drink in the morning hours on that morning? If you had never done it before.
It was a weekend.
This was not the first weekend in your life, was it, sir?
No.
Why on this weekend was it the first time you ever claimed to have consumed alcohol prior to the noon hour?
We were going to have a pool party in the backyard on a Saturday morning into the afternoon before I had to leave for San Jose Sunday morning for work.
So because you were going to have a pool party that afternoon, you chose to consume alcohol for what reason before noon?
To relax?
Did you typically consume alcohol to relax?
Yes.
Were you nervous about the pool party that you needed to relax?
No.
Whose idea was it to throw the party you were going to have that day?
Mine.
And how many people did you invite to the party?
2.
What 2 people did you invite to the party?
My wife and myself.
Those were the only 2 people that were going to attend the party?
Yes.
So let me make sure I understand this correctly. Are you sharing for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that you wanted to relax before you had a party with just you and your wife, and that's why you consumed alcohol?
Yes.
Stop it there. How many people would have stopped there? It only gets more enjoyable. And the reason I share that with you, I am more focused on what he or she is going to say than I am my next question. I've been doing it long enough, I'm comfortable within my own skin. I'll make mistakes, but their answers are critical to go elsewhere. These are all being done, as the young attorneys tell me, I don't understand it. We're going to show these clips to the jury. I don't know how they take what I say and put it in front of the jury on a screen, but they do it. So everything I'm doing is to get another snippet. That's ringing in my ears from Cale, Eric, Renee, and I do it, so I just keep going. Don't stop, because there's a lot of good golden nuggets that lie ahead if you listen.
Yeah, and these kind of nuggets are very important. I've found in all the trials that I've helped prepare is those absurd things that happen during a depo. If you can get them saying something that'll make the jury laugh, or just tilt their head sideways, or anything like that, it becomes a running theme throughout the trial. So in a different trial we had recently, someone said, it was the orthopedist, and he had said that physical therapy was hurting our client, but aquatherapy would be really good for him. And Cale had the depot, and he goes, well, wait a minute, what's the difference between those 2 things? And he says, physical therapy is more land-based, and aquatherapy is in aqua.
One if by land, two if by sea was the next question.
And that actually became a running theme that we had with every expert that we brought to trial. At the end of talking to someone on direct, they'd be talking about future care. And we'd say, any aquatherapy in your plan, doctor, for him, right? And you can hear the jury giggling and snickering at that. So anytime you get something weird like that, it can become like a party for him and his wife.
Sir, what I'm trying to figure out, why?
Well, it keeps going. He twists the knife quite a bit. Deviations from normal is another really good rule we have. And this is one where you're trying to show that he's doing something out of his normal course. If it's the first time they've done something, if they got lost on the way home and this is the first time they took that road home, anything like that you can get a first, that's something we clip and we put it in our trial.
Did you ever get behind a wheel of a motor vehicle prior to the date of the collision where you were impaired mildly, let's say twice the legal limit?
No.
Was this the first time you had ever driven a motor vehicle where you were twice the legal limit of impairment as allowed by the law?
Yes.
Is it fair to say, sir, that this was the first day you ever attempted to drive a motor vehicle in your recollection while being twice the legal limit?
Yes.
Stop it for sure. I can't pause it.
Did you typically drink in the AM before noon prior? It wasn't your normal routine to drop.
Oh, he thinks. Good. Yeah, so he can pause it.
Does anybody believe him? If you don't believe him, you think the jury's going to believe him? And you know that snippet's going to be played in front of the jury. So now it becomes an issue of credibility, and Rex has coined a term that I like very much. When a witness does this, we call it added value. We're going to play a snippet, they're going to hear it so many times, or they'll hear it enough times to realize that they're not being truthful. And it gives added value to the case.
And you can't. Let's listen to it again.
It wasn't your normal routine to drive intoxicated either, was it, sir?
No.
It wasn't your normal routine to get intoxicated early in the morning on a Saturday, was it, sir?
No.
It wasn't your normal routine to get intoxicated early in the morning and then get behind the wheel of a vehicle in August of 2019, was it, sir?
I know. Oh.
No.
Okay. And another thing that I like that Bruce does in each of these clips is he's incorporating a lot of the values and different skills that Rex and Bruce have talking about. One thing you see is looping, and he uses that mildly impaired for the entire 3-hour deposition. I think in most of these clips, you're gonna hear some version of an embarrassing thing that Bruce will manage to twist into his next question. And so it never goes away. One point I want to make, Alex made an excellent point today when he was talking opening. He made many excellent points. But when he was talking about opening, he said, I want to teach. I want them to learn. Everybody remember that. Wouldn't it be wonderful if every time we want to teach the jury something or learn, we get to say, you'll hear from the defendant, A, B, C. You'll hear from the defendant's expert, A, B, C. We have now taken it out of our side doing the teaching, using their witnesses, their parties, their experts to do the teaching, and then our people will put the final nail in the coffin. But it's wonderful when the teaching is done by the defense. The next rule is finding negative space. We've had whole presentations on negative space. It's just one rule in this presentation. But it comes down to finding places of your case where you have much more information about your client, about the injuries, about the facts. And anytime you can push them into an area where they're saying, I don't know, I never got that, I don't know what you're talking about, it's places where you can capitalize and you can twist the knife again. Negative space by far is my favorite topic to discuss. It's my favorite tool in the shed, and all of you
can become masters rather quickly of negative space. Every single one of you. Know your client, know their condition, know their injuries, know where they live, how they live, what they enjoyed before the tragic event, what they were able to do after the tragic event, know everything about him or her, know the family members, the grandchildren. If you know all of that, you can ask anybody, well, what did my client do before? What did my client enjoy before? They're not going to know any of that. Our experts will know that. Our witnesses will know that. The more they don't know, the worse the foundation for the house, which they're trying to build, will crumble. And our house is much more equipped to handle whatever they want to throw at us. Everyone understand? Any questions on that?
Okay, this is a different take on it, and I included it because it typically gets left out of a lot of our presentations. But this one is going more into detail, and I've seen Bruce and I've seen Rex do it over and over again. But it's getting to a level of specificity that they're going to start saying, I don't know.
Why didn't you just wait until you started the barbecue before you drank that day, sir?
I don't know.
Why didn't you wait to get gas on the way leaving town rather than drive intoxicated, sir?
I don't know.
Did you look to see how much gas you had in your truck before you drove to the gas station that day, sir?
I don't recall.
So how do you even know you needed gas, sir?
I made the trip on Friday after work to my house in Lancaster, so I knew the truck wasn't full.
You made the trip from where, sir?
Lake Forest?
And how long of a trip is that, sir?
I don't know.
How much gas does your truck hold, sir?
I don't know.
How many gallons did your truck hold, sir?
I don't know.
Is it possible you were never going to get gas at the time of the collision?
No.
You were just going to the market to get snacks, weren't you, sir?
No.
What snacks did you have at the house, sir, for your barbecue?
I don't recall.
So I include the last part as well because you can see that anytime Bruce hits a spot, he'll just keep asking for more details. And it's a way to just prolong how absurd the situation is that got into this case where someone died. And so this was a wrongful death case. And you can tell him he's struggling to contemplate it.
There's also another very big reason I do it, and I think it's beneficial for us when we do it. I'm trying to be very nice, which is difficult for me during this deposition. I'm not calling him names. I'm not cussing at him. I'm not raising my voice. I know he's very bothered by what's going on. So his mind now is somewhere else, and I haven't gone to where I really want to go. So I want to keep him very uncomfortable, but yet be very nice to him while I'm doing it. It's like when my 9-pound dog wants me to rub her belly. She throws herself on her back. This is what he's doing by his mannerisms, his answers, and we're going to keep getting more information. So I just suggest, look at what they're doing because you're setting them up for when you're really wanting them to give you what the information is we're seeking.
Okay. The next one's demonstrating personal choice. And this is another one that Bruce and Rex use in all of their depositions of a defendant. And it gets as much detail as before, but it's you chose to get in the car, you chose.
Would you agree, sir, that you chose to put your vehicle in the path that my client was traveling at the time of the collision?
Yes.
would you agree you put your foot on the gas to put your vehicle in my client's path of travel?
Yes.
Would you agree that you could have stayed in a stationary position to make sure or certain that there were no vehicles approaching?
Yes.
And so again, it's getting that level of detail and pushing it forward. It's not you chose to drive that day, it's you chose to input on the steering wheel the act of turning it left, right? And that's what we see in every one of these depots. We have a question.
It's just crickets from opposing counsel. Are they conscious or what?
Well, we didn't invite them to the depot.
Yeah.
Status of opposing counsel, that was a question. Why were they objecting? Why weren't they objecting? Just crickets.
We have very competent counsel on the side, but what would be the objection? My belief is defense are very robotic. I did it for 3 decades. I know their playbook better than most. And I know what they prepped them on. I know where they prepped them. I know what they did. Defense is overwhelmed right now. It is a very unfair advantage we have. They have not prepped them for negative space. They have prepped them for what we typically used to do in getting information, a fact-finding process. It's no longer a fact-finding process. It's find, destroy, and move on. But what is the objection? Does anybody have an objection they could have thrown out?
Relevance is not a good objection.
Let me tell you why that would be an objection, but here's what they knew. We had him on video at the gas station. And if he didn't know what he was going for, I implied he was going for more beer. I implied he was going for alcohol. I implied he was going for more spirits. I gave him an opportunity what he went there for. If he doesn't know, we got him on video going in, video coming out, it's fair game for the jury to decide what he was going to the store for. And we had exemplary damages.
But I suspect also your reputation precedes you
No.
because you're a scary guy in depot. I've never been opposite you, but that's what I've heard, and you kick the shit out of your opposing counsel.
No, I'm very nice.
No, he's got a presence. That's what I
Yeah.
hear. I don't have any firsthand evidence of that, but they're scared of you.
Another good, so it's not always true that you get objection-free clips like this. You can do 2 things in those situations. So what we will do is we clip the objections once they're ruled on so that they come out. And that's the easiest way to do it, because if they make a good objection, you should clean up your question. Because we want to play this at trial, we want to play this clip specifically to the jury. The other thing we do is you have to be conscious and put on your producer cap and recognize that you are trying to make a film. And so if you get those kind of objections, if they're getting in the way, you tell them to stop and you redo your question. And that happens in all of our depots. I'm sorry the objection cut you off. Please repeat your answer, right? And if they're cutting on into your question, you have to say, I'm sorry, we got that overlap. I'm going to ask my question again.
It's not uncommon as of late that the defense is literally shutting down depositions. And Eric and Cale and Renee are getting paid handsomely in sanctions when they do that. And I believe they're doing it with an agenda, which is actually a good ploy. They see that this is going to hell in a handbasket. They're going to try to prep them accordingly. So we anticipate their move. We get sanctions against them. We then call them in, and we go to a whole another play sheet. And now they're lost again. And then by the time we've destroyed their concentration, we go back to where we were, and we start all over again. But we're doing it with $10,000 more in our pocket.
Yeah, and it gets bad because we have defense attorneys that we've seen on multiple cases, and they will be obstructive or get in the way. We've had depositions that Rex took that occurred in chambers because the judge was so fed up with it that he wanted to watch the conduct in real time. And so if you keep pushing and you keep filing motions and you suspend when you're supposed to, eventually they're going to realize that you're going to get a clean tape or they're going to keep paying you.
Or they're going to do what we just watched, and that's surrender on video.
So the next rule is inflammatory values. And this is something you should always be working for and always trying to compare what they did or why. And if they suggest something that just feels inherently offensive, something that shows that they're not going to be in line with your jury's values, then that's going to go right in your 30 minutes of clipping.
Why did you get in your car knowing you were impaired?
I felt like I had to get fuel and my supplies before I drove up Sunday morning.
Would you agree, sir, that you knew as an adult, prior to August 3rd, 2019, it was unsafe for others on the road to have people driving and drinking?
Yes.
Is it your testimony, sir, that it was more important to you to put fuel in your car than to make sure that people on the roadway were safe from people like you driving while intoxicated?
Yes.
We now have punitive damages. I want to make sure you understood my question, sir. Did you just testify that to you it was more important to get fuel than it was to protect others from you driving while intoxicated?
Yes.
Why is that, sir?
I felt like it was something I needed to do. So I didn't have to worry about it for the rest of the day.
Sir, are you suggesting that the procurement or purchasing of fuel is more important than the life of people on the road?
It's not.
You took the life of another human being while driving intoxicated, correct?
Yes.
And you chose to drive while intoxicated simply so you could put fuel in your car at that precise moment, correct?
Yes.
Please explain to me why that is. I'm having a hard time understanding that, sir.
So am I. I don't know. I felt like it was something I had to get done.
If you had to do this all over again, would you do it the exact same way, sir?
No. Not in a million years.
So what I like about these clips and how he started this is an understanding that it was dangerous to drive intoxicated, right? That was the first question. And that's how you tee up these situations where you might get a weird answer, like this one, where he says that, yes, it's more important at that time to get gasoline than it is to drive sober.
There is one backdrop I should share with everybody. This gentleman did time. How many years?
Multiple.
And he was out, so he still had parole hanging over his head. So the attorneys really dropped the ball and threw him to the wolves. And they really are competent attorneys. But I would have been incredibly loud. I would have shut it down.
Yeah.
It would got to the point that it was not fair. So whoever asked about the objections, it was a good question. But it gets to a point that even I wanted to object to my questions. And I think I did at one point.
But even if you get the objections pushed.
There's a question back there.
Yeah.
My question is, good? Okay. My question is, the earlier clips you played, he just seemed like a ridiculous witness. Then on this clip, I transitioned from, this is a joke, to, I hate him.
Yeah, well,
So I wonder who else felt that transition based on these questions.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding your question, it's...
I actually felt bad for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt, there was a shift where I felt like, wow, that's remorse. I would not want to be in his shoes right now.
Yeah, and he started this depo. We're going to go through some other rules about that process during these defendant depositions, that they will start understanding the gravity of what they did.